Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Organized opposition to authority. A conflict in which one faction tries to wrest control from another. A movement upward. Sloping upward. Coming to maturity. The rising generation. Advancing or becoming higher or greater in degree or value or status. A rising trend. Newly come into prominence. A rising young politician. Organized opposition to authority. A conflict in which one faction tries to wrest control from another. Organized opposition to authority. A conflict in which one faction tries to wrest control from another. Refusal to accept some authority or code or convention. Each generation must have its own rebellion. Organized opposition to authority. A conflict in which one faction tries to wrest control from another. Cause aversion in. Offend the moral sense of. Fill with distaste. Make revolution. The people revolted when bread prices tripled again. Organized opposition to authority. A conflict in which one faction tries to wrest control from another. A movement upward. Christianity. Celebration of the ascension of Christ into heaven, observed on the 40th day after Easter. New Testament. The rising of the body of Jesus into heaven on the 40th day after his resurrection. The act of changing location in an upward direction. Astronomy. The rising of a star above the horizon. A movement upward. The act of changing location in an upward direction. An upward slope or grade, as in a road. Get up and out of bed. An increase in cost. They asked for a 10% rise in rates. Return from the dead. Christ is risen. Theology. The origination of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. A movement upward. They cheered the rise of the hot air balloon. Rise up. Increase in volume. Come up, of celestial bodies. The sun also rises. The amount of salary is increased. The act of changing location in an upward direction. Go up or advance. A wave that lifts the surface of the water or ground. Move to a better position in life or to a better job. Rise in rank or status. Come into existence. Take on form or shape. Increase in value or to a higher point. An upward slope or grade, as in a road. The car couldn't make it up the rise. Take part in a rebellion. Renounce a former allegiance. The property possessed by a slope or surface that rises. Increase in price or value. Become more extreme. Come to the surface. Move upward. Rise to one's feet. A growth in strength or number or importance. Exert oneself to meet a challenge. Rise to a challenge. Sloping upward. Sloping upward. The upward slope of a hill. Coming into existence. Coming to maturity. The act of changing location in an upward direction. Moving or going or growing upward. The ascending plane. The time yet to come. Of elected officers, elected but not yet serving. A verb tense that expresses actions or states in the future. A verb tense or other formation referring to events or states that have not yet happened. Future auxiliary. Bulk commodities bought or sold at an agreed price for delivery at a specified future date. Effective in or looking toward the future. He was preparing for future employment opportunities. Yet to be or coming. Some future historian will evaluate him. Getting higher or more vigorous. It's an up market. To a later time. They moved the meeting date up. Spatially or metaphorically from a lower to a higher position. Look up. Out of bed. Up by 7 each morning. Extending or moving toward a higher place. The up staircase. Being or moving higher in position or greater in some value. Being above a former position or level. The anchor is up. Open. The windows are up. Raise. Up the ante. Used of computers, operating properly. How soon will the computers be up? Used up. Time is up. Usually followed by on, or for, in readiness. He was up on his homework. To a higher intensity. He turned up the volume. To a more central or a more northerly place. Was transferred up to headquarters. Getting higher or more vigorous. An improving economy. Original and of a kind not seen before. Of crops, harvested at an early stage of development, before complete maturity. New potatoes. Used of a living language, being the current stage in its development. Lacking training or experience. The new men were eager to fight. Having no previous example or precedent or parallel. Very recently. They are newly married. In use after medieval times. Not of long duration. Having just, or relatively recently, come into being or been made or acquired or discovered. A new law. Often followed by, to, unfamiliar. New experiences. Other than the former ones, different. They now have a new leaders. Unaffected by use or exposure. It looks like new. An energetic attempt to achieve something. He fought a battle for recognition. An open clash between two opposing groups, or individuals. Police tried to control the battle between the pro- and anti-abortion mobs. A hostile meeting of opposing military forces in the course of a war. Grant won a decisive victory in the Battle of Chickamauga. Battle or contend against in or as if in a battle. They battled over the budget. Go against, as of rules and laws. This behavior conflicts with our rules. An open clash between two opposing groups, or individuals. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. A hostile meeting of opposing military forces in the course of a war. A disagreement or argument about something important. The familiar conflict between Republicans and Democrats. An incompatibility of dates or events. He noticed a conflict in the dates of the two meetings. A state of opposition between persons or ideas or interests. His conflict of interest made him ineligible for the post. Be in conflict. The two proposals conflict. Opposition between two simultaneous but incompatible feelings. He was immobilized by conflict and indecision. Opposition in a work of drama or fiction between characters or forces, especially an opposition that motivates the development of the plot. This form of conflict is essential to man's writing. Climb awkwardly, as if by scrambling. An energetic attempt to achieve something. Getting through the crowd was a real struggle. Be engaged in a fight. Carry on a fight. An open clash between two opposing groups, or individuals. Make a strenuous or labored effort. She struggled for years to survive without welfare. Strenuous effort. The struggle to get through the crowd exhausted her. To exert strenuous effort against opposition. He struggled to get free from the rope. A movement through space that changes the location of something. Change location. Move, travel, or proceed, also metaphorically. We traveled from Rome to Naples by bus. Travel upon or across. Travel the oceans. Undertake a journey or trip. A movement through space that changes the location of something. Self-propelled movement. Make a trip for pleasure. The act of going from one place to another. He enjoyed selling but he hated the travel. Travel from place to place, as for the purpose of finding work, preaching, or acting as a judge. Undergo transportation as in a vehicle. We traveled north on Route 508. An organized rebellion aimed at overthrowing a constituted government through the use of subversion and armed conflict. An organized rebellion aimed at overthrowing a constituted government through the use of subversion and armed conflict. Engage in a mutiny against an authority. Open rebellion against constituted authority, especially by seamen or soldiers against their officers. An uprising by Palestinian Arabs, in both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, against Israel in the late 1980s and again in 2000. An uprising by Palestinian Arabs, in both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, against Israel in the late 1980s and again in 2000. The First Intifada ended when Israel granted limited autonomy to the Palestine National Authority in 1993. The act of lifting something with great effort. The act of raising something. An upward movement, especially arithmetical rising and falling. Make an unsuccessful effort to vomit. Strain to vomit. Rise and move, as in waves or billows. An involuntary spasm of ineffectual vomiting. A bad case of the heaves. Lift or elevate. Throwing something heavy, with great effort. He gave it a mighty heave. Bend out of shape, as under pressure or from heat. Breathe noisily, as when one is exhausted. Geology, a horizontal dislocation. Move or cause to move in a specified way, direction, or position. Throw with great effort. Utter a sound, as with obvious effort. She heaved a deep sigh when she saw the list of things to do. The act of lifting something with great effort. An upward movement, especially a rhythmical rising and falling. The heaving of waves on a rough sea. Throwing something heavy, with great effort. He was not good at heaving passes. Breathing heavily, as after exertion. Go upward with gradual or continuous progress. Did you ever climb up the hill behind your house? Go up or advance. Sales were climbing after prices were lowered. Increase in value or to a higher point. Prices climbed steeply. An upward slope or grade, as in a road. An event that involves rising to a higher point, as in altitude or temperature or intensity, etc. The act of climbing something. It was a difficult climb to the top. Improve one's social status. This young man knows how to climb the social ladder. Move with difficulty, by grasping. Slope upward. The path climbed all the way to the top of the hill. A violent disturbance. A state of violent disturbance and disorder, as in politics or social conditions generally. Disturbance usually in protest. Geology. A rise of land to a higher elevation, as in the process of mountain building. An event that involves rising to a higher point, as in altitude or temperature or intensity, etc.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.